You're listening to River City Mystery Podcast, the show that delves into the Evansville and surrounding tri-state area's many mysteries, including unsolved crimes, murders, and disappearances. A show that isn't afraid to jump down the rabbit hole to investigate reports of local hauntings, sightings of UFOs and cryptids, among other paranormal phenomena. With your host, co-founder of the Humans of Evansville Facebook page, law office worker by day, insomniac researcher of the bizarre by night, Matt Dyke. I'd like to share a story with you about something that happened with me and my wife tonight, Saturday, August 21st, 2021. A few hours ago, actually. Now, Sherry and I went to Bosse Field in Evansville around 7 o'clock tonight to catch the Otters game. Our daughter, Lexi, is an Otter Belle, and she performs there, and they do a dance after the fourth inning of all the home games, so we were going to support her there. And full disclosure, Sherry and I, well, we're not exactly big baseball fans. So we do go to support her at the games, but watching baseball is kind of rough for both of us. I'm a football fan. I enjoy watching basketball too, but man, baseball it's not my thing. There was a rain delay, so the game was starting at 7:15. We were about 15 minutes early, so we thought, hey, let's get some exercise and take a walk around the Garvin Lake. And that's what we did. It was a beautiful night, probably 75 degrees or so. We thought we'd take a walk around the lake and kill some time. So we're walking around the lake and not many people around. I think we saw one couple fishing on the northeast side of the lake over there close to the concrete bridge. I don't think we saw anybody else as we were there. We were walking along the sidewalk along the north side of the lake, walking on the north side of the path, walking away from Bosse Field, like towards the greenway. Didn't see anything unusual until we got to the northwest corner. So basically the corner over there by the greenway in that section of the lake. I turned my head, and as we're walking, I see about 200 feet off into the lake what appears to be two green ducks floating parallel to the sidewalk way across the lake. Now, there are some strange reflections, and the lighting was kind of odd, so I was kind of guessing what I was actually seeing. I was just kind of keeping an eye on it, and I finally, as we're walking, I turned to Sherry and I said, do you see that out there? Do you see out in the lake that there's something strange? And she looks out there and says, yeah, what is that? There's something strange out there. So that's when we both started like hyper focusing on whatever this thing was. It was moving. You could see that the water around whatever this was there were ripples around it. So you could see that it was in motion and moving, and it appeared, the more we looked at it, the more it looked like leaves and like maybe a giant branch, but it was moving as though it was two ducks in a row. It kind of had somewhat the shape of two ducks, but you could see kind of leafy, maybe a bush-like thing. I don't know. It was very strange, but it didn't look like a branch. I didn't see any wood anywhere, so it was very hard to decipher what we were looking at, and it was there was a bit of distance between us and whatever this was. And this all happened so quickly, so as we're walking, I turned to Sherry and I said, maybe this thing is not moving. Maybe it's just like a tree branch stuck in the water, and we just think it's moving because we're moving in and it's causing some sort of illusion. So we stop and look across the lake, and we can see clearly that it's still moving. We could see the water ripples around it, and that it's actually, kind of like a duck. If a duck were swimming across the lake, you'd see the water around the duck kind of being, rippled and displaced and everything. So it was definitely moving. There was motion there. It wasn't like just some branch in the middle of the lake that wasn't moving. I started to turn, and I was going to continue walking around the lake and get a better view. And maybe at that point I was thinking, okay, I'm going to get some pictures of this thing. This is something unusual. So I was hoping to get a better angle where I could get a better shot of what this thing was, or get a shot of what it was. And the moment I turned my head, Sherry said, "Oh, it just dove under the water." I quickly turned my head and I could see that the water had been displaced, kind of like if you threw a giant rock out in the middle of the lake, you'd see the ripples going out. And that's what I saw. That's what both of us saw. And Sherry said, "Oh yeah, it very intentionally dove, or it disappeared under the water. It wasn't like a slow sinking or gradual anything. It was like it disappeared quickly." We thought, well, if it dove, then it needs to come back up for air. If it was on top of the water, then it needs air. So we thought we'd stick around for about 10 minutes or so and just kind of wait for it to resurface and see what the heck it was. We waited and waited. It never came back up for air. We thought, well, let's continue walking around the lake. So we go around the north side of the lake and then head back on the south side, heading back towards Bosse Field. The entire time we're, focusing on the lake at that area where we saw it to see if we see any sort of, disruption or activity or hear noises or anything, and nothing. It never came back. So whatever it was under the water and disappeared, and nothing. When I got to the other side, I did take some pictures, and I will post those on the website and on the Discord server, just so you can have an idea of what exactly the lighting was, what time of, what the conditions were at the time in the lake. Now, there's nothing in the pictures that as far as like seeing whatever this was, it was long gone at that time. I probably took the pictures maybe 15 minutes after we actually had the sighting. But the lighting is pretty much the same as it was for the most part. So I'd like to throw this out there to you. If you've ever had any sort of strange experience at Garvin Lake, or if you have any ideas as to what we may have seen, I invite you to come to rivercitymystery.com and join my Discord server. I have a channel set up specifically for the Garvin Lake sighting. Please share whatever your story is, or if you have suggestions on what we may have seen. I'm certainly not suggesting that what we saw was a cryptid or some sort of unknown creature, but we definitely saw something unusual and would be open to hearing your ideas on what this might have been. One idea that I have is that maybe it was a larger fish. Maybe it's a catfish or something that had fishing line attached to it, and maybe the fishing line had wrapped around a tree branch, and as the fish is floating around the lake, this branch, once the fish starts getting close to the surface, the branch comes above the water and appears to be floating on the top of the water. I've never seen anything like that in all the times I've been around lakes, but hey, anything is possible. That seems more plausible than some sort of branch creature that's living in Garvin Lake, but I don't know. All we know is that we both saw something tonight, and we don't know what it was. So I told Sherry, hey, I'm just going to throw this out there on the show, and hopefully we get some feedback on the Discord server, and maybe we'll learn something new. Or maybe there have been many sightings of this, or maybe people just haven't mentioned anything. I did a little bit of research and have not seen any reports of any unusual sightings at Garvin Lake. There have been all kinds of stories about stuff that's happened at Garvin Lake, but none of it cryptid related or any sort of unusual creatures like this. And I did some research through my materials for cryptids and unknown lake creatures. Nothing really comes close to meeting the description of what we saw, so we look forward to your feedback on this if you have any ideas. Thank you for joining me in the second episode of River City Mystery Podcast. I appreciate it. I invite you to join me at rivercitymystery.com, where I've got links to my Discord server, where you can join others in the community in discussing each episode in greater detail in its own channel. I also have a channel set up for topic suggestions. If you have a particular mystery or strange thing that's been happening in your community in the tri-state and you'd like me to look into it, throw those suggestions in that channel. Something down the road, I may have set up some sort of events where we can do voice chats, or maybe even have a show, run it through Discord one time. I'm still trying to figure out Discord. I'm fairly new to it, so I'm liking what I see so far. I think there's a lot of possibilities for using this to complement the podcast. I also want to give special thanks to my son, Griffin Dyke, who provided me with my transition music for this episode. He created the music as a Father's Day gift for me this year, so I told him I was going to use that, and I did, and it turned out pretty well, I think. And with that, we're going to wrap up tonight's show. Again, thank you for joining me, and until next time, take care.